Hi there, it's Sarah here. Welcome to the Coaching Corner. I'm just checking that we are live in the coaching group. If you just bear with me a second, because I've got so many little screens and things open. Yep, that's it. It looks like we are on. All right, so hopefully, if you are watching live and you've got any questions for me, hopefully I'm going to see those come up. If I don't see them come up, I will come back and check and answer your questions afterwards, okay? If you're watching this on the replay, then again, please ask me any questions, post them below the video in the group somewhere, and I will come back and answer them. So this little workshop then, I thought I'd put on, it's all about stress and anxiety. We're going to take a deep dive into it. We are going to look at what stress is, what anxiety is, where it comes from, the effects that it has, and then I'm going to walk you through the anxiety loop, which is part of our formula. I'm going to show you how that works and how easy it can be to eliminate unnecessary stress and anxiety from our lives, which is really exciting. Okay, so before I go on, let me just quickly introduce myself. My name is Sarah. I need a hook or something, don't I, really? So I'm a hypnotherapist, psychotherapist, CBT practitioner, hypnobirthing practitioner, and I've been doing this since about 2008. Okay, so I've helped thousands of women. I've done thousands of hours over the last decade. I had a practice in Leigh-on-Sea in Essex, a practice in London, central London, practice in Lincolnshire, and this year I've started seeing all of my clients. Well, I actually started in 2016 seeing my clients online, but this year I only ever see my clients online like this through Zoom. Although it's two-way, obviously, we're on Facebook and I can't see you. But on Zoom we can see each other, and we also opened the academy this year as well. So I train women who want to work within the emotional health area as coaches, helping women resolve stress and anxiety and all of those symptoms. We do our training in two chunks. In the first 90 days, I train them in my formula, which is a curation and adaptation from the different schools of thought like hypnotherapy, CBT and coaching. And then in the second 90 days, we have this amazing rapid business growth system that our coaches go through, and it lays down all the foundations and then shoots them into growth mode. Okay, so they launch their business, they launch their service, even if they've already got a business, they launch their service really, really quickly and get a return on their investment and have the ability to maintain that stable, as stable as working for yourself can be, a nice sustainable business that they get going on. Okay, so that's it. Yeah, so if you're watching, let me know that you're here. Post in the comments, say hello, let me know what you do, where you're from, whether you're watching on the replay or live, because it's always really, really nice to get to know everybody that's in this group. Okay, so should we just get stuck in? Let's have a look then at what stress and anxiety is. I'm going to draw on my wall. If I can grab a pen, I always draw on my wall, so hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. So we've got these two things, haven't we? Stress and anxiety. So let's write that down. We've got anxiety here, and then we've got stress here. Okay, and these days everybody seems to be suffering, don't they, from some form of stress or anxiety. Stress getting the kids to school, stress at work, health anxiety, generalized anxiety, social anxiety, all of these things. We all experience it from time to time. Some of us more than others. It's normal to experience it from time to time. But when you're getting these prolonged periods of suffering, or major spikes in suffering, so they go on, that you're suffering for any length of time or in any deep way, then it's really, really best to get that sorted out. Okay, but to feel a little bit stressed when you've asked your kids 99 times to clean their teeth, put their shoes on to get out the door in the morning, that's pretty standard. Okay, and it's short term, and by the time everyone's ready to go out the door, that's gone. Now if you build on that throughout the day, and you're stressed because someone's overtaken you or cut you up, or you've missed a car parking space, and you keep building on that stress and anxiety throughout the day, then that is a little bit of a thing that maybe needed to be sorted out. Okay, but if it's just these little isolated events, that's pretty normal. But if they build up, then obviously you want to think about maybe why that's happening and getting that sorted out. Okay, so stress then and anxiety. Let's have a look. What should we start with? Let's start with stress. Okay, so stress happens on the body. All right, so stress is the real-time experience that we have on the body. What can stress feel like? Let's have a look. I've got some beautiful notes here. Stress can feel like, well, the word stress itself means to draw tight, doesn't it? And it can feel like confusion. You know, you can't think straight when you're stressed. You can't make decisions very easily. You might find that you've got really poor concentration and poor memory recall, that you can't remember things. It might be that you get these anxious thoughts in the mind. So anxiety is in the mind. It's a product of the mind there. Let's do a little line so we can see the difference. One's at the top, the head. One's at the body, at the bottom, the body. You also start to feel emotional, don't you, when you get stressed? So we get these feelings of overwhelm where we can't do things. It's all too much. Or you might get agitated. Sometimes when we're stressed, we go into the shock response. Sometimes we just get really angry. And at other times we get really low, quite depressed, okay? The other physical impacts of stress might be that you sweat profusely. It might be that you get dizzy spells. We get an increase in heart rate, blood pressure, rapid breathing. There's like changes to your immune system because your adrenaline is in overdrive, so your immune system doesn't work as well as it can do because it's too busy managing the fight, flight and freeze response. It might be that you get a lowered libido too. Okay, and when we're in the stress response for any period of time, we change our normal behaviours. So it might be that we avoid going out and talking to people. It might be that you clam up and go really quiet in conversation. It might be that you don't look after yourself as much. Okay, so you're not quite so quick to change your clothes or put your face on or do your hair or make that effort with your appearance and your hygiene. And for some of us as well, when we get really, really stressed, it affects our eating. And that can go one of two ways. You can really do what I do and emotionally eat. I'm an emotional eater. Or you might go in the opposite direction, which, like my daughter, she closes up and she doesn't eat much. It's like, I can't eat. I'm so upset about this. I can't eat. So, you know, we respond quite differently in that way. So stress then, when we say we're stressed, we are referring to the feelings that we have in our body. Okay, all of those ones that we just listed there. So why might we get stressed? What might bring stress on? Well, usually there's two things, okay? One of them is, I can't spell this, anticipation, and the other one is real time, okay? So it might be that in real time you're feeling stressed because you're feeling some kind of threat or danger or concern, whether it be real or whether it be perceived, okay? You might be feeling like you're under threat. So a real-time stress response might be, if our fire alarm was to go off right now, like, oh, where's the fire? I'm feeling stressed. I'll get the heart palpitations, the adrenaline running, my eyes go out on stalks and I'm looking for the danger and I know that I need to evacuate the building. Okay, that would be like a real-time stress response. Anticipatory stress would be me sitting here, tapping my feet, waiting for that alarm to go off. I know it's going to go off anytime soon. Okay, that's the anticipation where it's not actually happening yet. We're just fearing that it might happen, and we're feeling that stress response on our body. Okay, so the two are very, very different, but they feel exactly the same. Okay, so let's have a look then at anxiety. So what is anxiety? If stress is on the body, anxiety is a product of the mind. And this is where it gets really exciting. This is what I really, really love. Because we create our own anxiety. I had a conversation just this morning actually about being completely rid of anxiety. And you don't want to be completely rid of anxiety, because stress and anxiety are part of our inbuilt survival mechanism, okay? It keeps us alive. It's been going for generations and generations, and it's what keeps us going, because we look for danger and we go and save ourselves, and then we go get to reproduce and survive, okay? So it's just a survival thing that we have. However, these days, because we're not under threat from lions, tigers and bears and all of that business, and we're just sitting in our homes and sitting in our cars and sitting in our workspaces and going about our business, we create anxiety. And it's that created anxiety that you can be completely free of, because it's unnecessary, okay? But what we don't realise is that we are actually creating it. I'm going to explain that a little bit more in a second. But anxiety then is just quite simply a product of the mind. It's mismanaged thinking, and it's something that we do when we're feeling a bit fearful, or we're feeling a bit worried, or we're feeling a little bit concerned about something. We've got a little bit of apprehension about something. It might be that, I don't know, I used to feel it at preschool, okay? I used to feel apprehensive going up to the queue to pick my little ones up from preschool when I was in their nursery. I would feel apprehensive because I might have to start a conversation, or someone might want to talk to me, and there were these mothers there that I didn't really know, and they all appeared to know each other, and I'd be a bit apprehensive and worried about that. That was my social anxiety. So I would create anxiety about getting out the car and going. So I would wait until the doors opened, then get out the car and join the ends of the queue, and to avoid it. Okay, so I would create that anxiety. They're probably the loveliest bunch of mums, and I'd probably be made more than welcome, find that I had a right laugh, and you know, this is going back a decade, but probably find that I'd have a nice time with them. But my perceived worry, threat, danger, I might show myself up, they might not like me, and all of those socially anxious thoughts that I was having were being created in the mind. Okay, so anxiety then can be split again into two. So we've got here and here, okay, and also here and here. We can get real-time anxiety and we can get anticipatory anxiety. So the difference in the two would be real-time anxiety might be, let's have a look. Someone calling me, Sarah, there's a fire in the kitchen. We need to get out now. So my anxiety in my mind would create thoughts that would be on the lookout for danger and a safe exit. So I would think, okay, how am I getting out of here? Who do I need to take with me? What do I need to do be safe? And I'd ask myself those questions, and then I would respond in the body. Does that make sense? Hope that does. And then you've got this anticipatory anxiety, which would be me sitting here waiting for someone to tell me there's a fire broken out in the kitchen and I need to get out of here. And I would start visualizing what my exit strategy would be. What doors can I use? What windows can I use? Is there a ladder? Is there a step? Will the door be unlocked? Where is a safe place to wait? How long have I got to get out? And things like that. So you start anticipating it. And when we do that, we start visualizing. I do, especially because I'm catastrophic, but we start thinking and feeling and tasting and smelling, if you like, sometimes, all of those ways of what that might feel like, okay? And then we get that feeling on our body. So stress causes anxiety and anxiety causes stress, okay? Let's just do a little bit of a feedback mechanism thing going on here. All right, and that feedback mechanism can get kicked off, it can get set off, the switch can be flicked on it, whether it's something that's real time or something that's just perceived. The feelings and the response will work in exactly the same way. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? So half the time, for the most part of the people that I meet in my work over the last 10 years, they are feeling the effects of stress and anxiety, but it's not real. It feels real on their body. They're getting the heart palpitations, the blood pressure is up, they're getting the sweaty palms, they can't get their words out, they're blushing, their bowels are going tight, they've got IBS, they're overeating, can't stop eating, or can't bring themselves to eat even. They're getting all of those symptoms that we work with within our program, but there's nothing real time happening, okay, which is really, really big thing. So stress and anxiety can affect so many things. It can affect your fertility journey. It can affect your pregnancy. It can affect your birth. I mention those because I know there's a lot of ladies within this group that work within that area. But it can also affect your menopause. Okay, it can affect your fears. It creates fears and phobias, like tocophobia and emetophobia. It can affect your sleep pattern. If you're stressed and anxious all the time, all those little things add up. You've got more adrenaline pumping around your body and less melatonin and all the other hormones that you need. So it affects your sleep pattern. It can affect your relationships, your vaginismus. It can hold you back with opportunities. It clouds your mind and your vision, so you lose perspective on events and what's going on. You underperform, you don't perform to your best when you're stressed and you're anxious. It can affect postnatal depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, grief. It can hold you back from overcoming these big events that can happen in life. It can create panic disorder. Emotional eating, generalized anxiety, social phobia, confidence issues, all of that stuff. So having this understanding and working out your own stress and anxiety cycle is just one of the best things that you can do for yourself and for your clients as well. And I'm sure that I know pretty much everybody in this group works, offers a service already, and you might even be able to see how this plays out with your clients. You can probably see it in action. So there's two ways then of overcoming stress and anxiety, okay? And one of them is emotional control, okay? If you've got a sense of emotional control, then you are going to break this feedback mechanism when it's perceived, when it's anticipatory, okay? You don't want to break it when it's real time because you want to get to safety. But when it's just anticipation, you want to break this cycle, this feedback mechanism. And you do that with emotional control. So emotional control is basically how much you perceive that you can control or influence the experience that you're in, okay, for your own good, for the positive. So quite often our clients come to us and they feel like they've got this stress and anxiety, and it's an it, and it's this thing that's outside of them that they've got no control over whatsoever, and therefore they don't have any emotional control over it. It just has the control over them, okay? And then the other way is having the internal resources, which is basically knowing that you can make a positive decision about the situation that you are in, and you can improve upon it, and you can take steps in the right direction. So quite often in life things happen, don't they, and we have absolutely zero control over them. But what we can do is we can choose to respond positively, and that is when you've got your emotional resilience and you know that you've got the internal resources to manage and cope and bounce back from whatever happens. Okay, so that's pretty much what we teach in our course. We teach the emotional resilience and we teach the internal resources so that when life happens, we can cope. And we know that it's not this it thing, but it is actually something that we are creating, because we are paying attention to the worry, the fear, the doubt, and the concern that we are perceiving about a situation in our minds. Okay, so hoping this is making sense. So anticipatory anxiety then, which is pretty much what anxiety is, that causes the stress on our bodies, it's higher in people who have thinking styles. Okay, so this is all taking part in the mind. So we have thoughts, don't we? It's right up here. Thoughts, and we have belief systems. Okay, and they all take place in here. And we have thinking styles. Okay, and if you are the sort of person that has a thinking style where you brood and ruminate, or I like to call it problem solve, you know, like one of those what if mindsets, and you need an A plan and a B plan and a C plan and a D plan just in case, you know, if you're one of those type of people, then anticipatory anxiety and the stress response, so the physical impact of the stress response is going to be higher in you than if you don't. It's also going to be higher in you if, like me, you're a bit of a drama queen, okay? And that's when you really catastrophize. That's when you've got the catastrophic thinking style. And that is because you're really good at imagining things. And you see things in your mind's eye and you see them playing out. And of course, when you see something playing out, you feel it on your body as well. So whether you're the big thinker or the big feeler, with those two thinking styles, anticipatory anxiety is going to be bigger in you. It's also much, much higher in people that negatively respond to social pressure. And so that's if you've got high expectations of yourself and others, if you're have rigid set of belief systems or rules, personal rules. You know, if you're like really got to be 10 minutes early, you know, like a good soldier is almost 10 minutes before the 10 minutes early. If you live in fear of letting people down, I mean, we all do to a certain extent, but people with social pressure who respond to social anxiety are even more so, even more concerned. You know, it might be that I cannot leave the house, let alone do a video without any makeup on. That kind of social pressure. So if that's you, then you are more, or your client base, then they are, or you are more likely to experience anticipatory anxiety. Okay, so lots of anticipatory anxiety then equals scary, out of control, fearful situations. So if you're anticipating something pretty much all of the time, you are starting to build up fear or phobia and avoidance techniques. So if you've got lots of anticipatory anxiety, for example, it's going to be really easy for you to produce tocophobia that's going to prevent you from falling pregnant or cause you to be really stressed and anxious all the way through your pregnancy, for example. Okay, so lots of anticipatory anxiety causes all of those problems. A little bit of anticipatory anxiety, which is pretty normal, okay, where we might think about what happens, but then stop ourselves and realise that regardless of what life throws at us, we can cope. Okay, you're more likely to feel in control, you're more likely to feel calm, and you're more likely to feel like everything is just as it should be because you're not paying attention to it. Okay, you're paying attention to the resolving and the resilience of it rather than the actual thing itself. So let's just explain that a little bit more. Let's rub this one out for a second. Okay, I think that I've got a squeaky chair. And just point out to you that the dogs haven't barked yet. We've been going for 20 minutes. That's good, isn't it? So we can have a situation in life. And this situation can be pretty much anything, really. Because I've just mentioned pregnancy, we can talk about that. So it might be your client has an appointment for a growth scan at 30 odd weeks, and they start building up anticipatory anxiety about what if the baby's too big and what the consequences of that might be, and they might have to have this planned C-section. Baby's going to have to come early, or they're going to have a vaginal birth, but it's really going to be hurting, and this, that, and the other. You know, they could just start catastrophizing, blowing it all out of proportion. So we've got this situation here, and regardless of the outcome of that appointment, because nobody knows in advance, do they? And even with scans, you can't always be 100%. You can get a good indication, but so we've got a choice. We've got a situation, and we can either respond positively or negatively to that situation. Okay, now if someone, yourself or your client, is going to respond negatively to that situation, then it's because they have a lack of belief in themselves and their ability to cope. Okay, so they don't feel like they've got any coping strategies, any emotional resilience. The problem feels like it's bigger than them. The power and control has been taken away from them. They don't have any influence in that situation. And it's basically they're just externalizing everything. I'm going to have to wait and see what I'm told. I'm going to have to do what I'm told to do. Okay, and they take that mindset and they get, we call it locus of control, and they get really, really external. You might be familiar with that phrase. Or you can go really, really positive, and regardless, know that regardless of what happens, you have a belief in yourself, because you know that you can cope with what life throws at you. You know you've got the ability to bounce back. You know that you're going to make good decisions. You're not full of the self-doubt like you would be over here, or the worry or the concern. You might have a little bit of it, but you're going to respond positively to it. And when we respond positively to it, we feel we have a positive experience for a start, and we feel in control. Whereas the other way around, we're more likely to have a negative experience and feel out of control. That's where blame comes in, and this is where responsibility comes in. Okay, the two there. So I hope that's made a little bit more sense for you with that stress and anxiety, and why it's so important to recognise the part that we play in it, the part that we all play in that. Okay, so let's have a look then. I want you to walk through our formula. I'm just going to slurp my tea a second. And I wanted to walk through my formula with you, really, and show you how it works, and how easy it is to eliminate that unnecessary stress and unnecessary anxiety from our lives, and how detrimental it can be when we don't. Okay, and I'm going to show you our anxiety loop. So excuse me while I just write this down. Trigger, it says there, hope you can read it. Thought, says there. Action, over here. Self-critic, I've put there. And here I'm going to put blame. And response. Ability. Okay, I'm going to draw my cycle out here. I'm just looping it up with these arrows. Okay, we work with lots of different people, lots of different things. So we work with stress, we work with anxiety, we work with insomnia, emotional eating, tocophobia, vaginismus, emetophobia, all of those things that plague women's emotional health today. Panic attacks, depression, postnatal depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, all of the things that we can experience when we're feeling out of control. Okay, and what should we start with? Let's just refresh my screen here and see if there's any questions come up, see if anyone's watching with us. Excuse me one second, I don't want to be rude and ignore anybody if you're there, but you might not be there. Okay, no questions. All right, if you've got any questions, please fire away, because I will check again in a minute. So let's have a look then at the anxiety loop. This is a condensed version of the 7 steps to self-empowerment, the formula that we use with our clients, that our coaches use with our clients. And it's a curation of hypnotherapy, CBT, and coaching. So it's a curation and adaptation. So I feel like I've taken all the best bits from those schools of thought and adapted them and applied them to find a unique formula. And it's not unique as in never been done before, but it's unique as in never been done before in this way, because each client that we have and each symptom that they have, we apply the formula to them so that they find their unique formula. So basically they're understanding and finding out how they are creating their stress and their anxiety, and how they are unwittingly creating the symptoms that they are suffering, and therefore they can take back that control and be completely self-empowered to either resolve completely or greatly reduce. And there are some things that we can't resolve completely, so I say resolve completely or greatly reduce the suffering of. Okay, so things like unexplained pain and tension, things like, well, let's just use an example. So I'm going to use myself as an example. I'm an emotional eater. I'm also very dramatic and catastrophic with my thinking. Okay, so it might be that my trigger at the top. They're always starting at the top. My trigger might be 8 o'clock of an evening, and I might think, oh, what a day, I'm just sitting down now, children are all sorted out, oh, I might have a bit of chocolate. So I start thinking about that bit of chocolate, and because I am so dramatic, when I think about chocolate, I get the saliva. So I'm thinking, oh, my thought is, oh, chocolate, have I got any in the kitchen? And my action is for my mouth to start to saliva. Okay, we can go a little bit deeper than that. And I might think that I'm gonna go in the kitchen now, I'm gonna go and get that chocolate, I deserve it, I've had a bit of a stressful day. So all of a sudden I find myself in the kitchen eating chocolate, away from the kids because it's bad for them, right? And I eat that chocolate and it's lovely, moment on the tongue, tasting lovely, just as I imagined it to be, get my satisfaction out of that. And then I get really self-critical. What do you like that for? Shouldn't have eaten that. Oh, that's bad for you. You're never going to lose any weight. It's no wonder you're fat. No wonder your skin's fat. Blah, 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 blah. You know, and all that really nasty stuff that we can tell ourselves sometimes. So we get really quite self-critical. And when we do that, it reinforces, okay, any unhelpful thoughts that we've had. And we also then, once we've done that, we need to kind of offload that. No one can feel bad forever, okay? So we need to find an excuse. That's why the word excuse now. I like excuse. Let's find an excuse. So my excuse for eating that chocolate at 8 o'clock would be, it's not my fault. I've had a really busy day. I'm tired. I just need a sugar kick to get through the rest of the evening. I've got no willpower. It's because I've got a sweet tooth. Sugar is addictive. I don't know. You can insert whatever excuse you like. Okay. And then before we know it, we're stuck in this cycle. So we have the trigger. That can be an external trigger or an internal trigger. Okay. So an external trigger might be something somebody said to me, you know, or maybe even seeing donuts in the donut shop, for example. There's my trigger, a visual clue. And then we have this thought, okay? Now, my thoughts are always catastrophic. I'm a drama queen. I'm also quite black and white. I'm also quite brooderish. I'm also quite rigid. But I thought I would say those are my main ones, okay? So there's quite a few thinking styles that we use within our course. And so I'm thinking about it in this way. When I'm thinking about it and paying attention to it, it's going to get bigger, okay? Which drives the action. So in my case, with the emotional eating, I was thinking and tasting that chocolate so much that I wasn't going to give up until I'd had it, okay? And then I was going to give myself a hard time, so being my own harshest critic there, so breaking my heart, being unkind to myself, lowering my self-esteem and my self-worth because I'm useless, can't stick at anything, right? And then over here, I need to find an excuse. And so I hope that explains that a little bit better to you. Let's have a look at another example. What about then someone who can't sleep? Okay, how does this play out for someone that can't sleep? So, for example, we've got the trigger. The trigger might be laying down at night and turning the light out, closing your eyes. And then what can happen is, it's like your brain comes alive, doesn't it? It's like, boop, switched on. It's just ready for bed a minute ago, really, really tired, eyes are tired, head's tired, body's tired, get into bed. And it's like, bing, your mind comes alive with all of these thoughts. And they might not be big thoughts. It might not be about big things or important things. You don't have to have anything kind of like life-changing going on. In fact, it's quite the opposite usually with insomnia. It's like we replay the day's events. And sometimes we replay events from 10 years ago or something that somebody said once, and then somebody else has said something similar, somebody else has said something, and we start backing up all this evidence from this comment. And we do that because we're in our safe place. And when you're in your safe place, your subconscious mind like gets this permission to run wild, okay? So we get these thoughts and we can't shake them off. And we're getting agitated because we've got this conflict, okay? Your subconscious mind and your conscious mind. You want to go to sleep? Yeah, sleep time. but your subconscious mind is going, no, we're awake, wide awake. So we're getting this conflict here. Shh, put some conflict in with the squiggly line. Okay, and this one always wins because it's bigger. Your subconscious, your mind, your thought process is much, much bigger than what you consciously want to do and react and respond to. So as you're fighting yourself and not winning at getting off to sleep, your stressometer, the pressure gauge here, starts going up. And when that starts going up, we get all these different kind of chemicals, hormones running around our body. So in order to go to sleep at night, excuse me, in order to go to sleep at night, you need to feel relaxed. You need the relaxant, you need the melatonin, you need the oxytocin, you need to feel safe, secure, warm and dry. You need all your basic needs met, don't you? And you need the melatonin to help you just relax and switch off and go off to sleep. Well, when you're fighting your mind, your subconscious and your critical mind there, when you've got that conflict on the go and you're going over and over all of these events from 10 years ago, 10 minutes ago, whenever, okay, what you're doing is you're creating the freeze, fight and flight response, which is quite different, which is the adrenaline. And the adrenaline is the blocker. So, like in pregnancy, keep coming back to pregnancy, it's like the blocker to all of those other things. So without the melatonin, without the relaxing, without the oxytocin, you're not going to relax and get to sleep. So you toss and you turn. You toss and you turn. You might as well get up and get a drink and have a wee and put your phone on and turn the light on and disturb the whole house. And then we tell ourselves that we can't get to sleep, give ourselves a hard time because you've got to get up at 6 o'clock. The alarm's going to go off in a minute. You're not going to have enough sleep, going to be tired tomorrow, you're going to be useless at work tomorrow, you're going to be rubbish at this tomorrow. So we do all that self-critical thinking here, giving ourselves a hard time. And then we've got to say it's because we suffer with insomnia and it's bigger than us. Something beyond our control, okay? It's all that external stuff. There's nothing I can do about it. I've done my oils, my reflexology, my bath, I've done my hygiene routine, I've got my clean bed, I've washed my face, I've cleaned my teeth, done all the things that I should do to help me unwind, but still can't sleep, okay? And this is the reason. This is the reason. So our program helps our clients find their formula and unpick this conflict that goes on in the mind. Okay, so I hope that's given you a nice insight there to how we create this stress and anxiety and how we then create the symptoms that go with it, with this simple cycle. So let's have a look at one last one then before we go. What about the trigger? What might the trigger be? Oh, a comment from others. Okay, so somebody has said something to you about, oh, you can't do that. Maybe it's about work, for example. Thirsty work, all this talking. So maybe somebody said to you about, oh, you can't do that. You know, you can't do that. You can't charge this. You can't do that service. Somebody else in the area is already doing that. You can't, I don't know, insert whatever you like. Okay, you can't claim that. I hope that comment, you can't claim to free somebody of their anxiety, for example. So somebody says that to you and it triggers you. So you brood and ruminate, what did they mean by it? What do they think about it? Do they think I'm not, what do they think I'm worthless? Do they think I'm no good? You know, we try and problem solve. What did they mean by that? And while you're trying to problem solve it, that pressure gauge is going up there. And instead of, you might get some physical symptoms, it's probably triggering things like social anxiety. Okay, and you might feel a bit anxious, you might feel a bit tense, you might start to avoid doing things. You might not put a post out there, you might not put that blog out there because what people think if you do that. You might not put your price point out there. So you're not going to run your business as efficiently as perhaps you could do because you're brooding and ruminating on that comment from somebody else. Chances are they've even forgotten they've said it. Okay, so then you start giving yourself a hard time. It's because I don't have enough certificates. It's because I don't have, I don't know, you can insert what you want. It's because I'm no good. It's because I'm not knowledgeable enough. It's not, I've not seen enough clients. I've not got enough experience. You can give yourself a really hard time here, okay? Insert any self-critical thought you like. And then we go up here and we start to look for excuses. Okay, and we start placing it on all of the external stuff. I'm too busy, it's not the right time. Insert pretty much any excuse you like. I'm sure that if you think about it, you can see this pattern play out in probably more than one area of your life, okay, because it does for all of us. So it's really important that we understand how we create and maintain anxiety within ourselves, and that it isn't something that controls us. So quite often our clients start out, and our coaches will tell you that the clients say they've got this thing. Anxiety is quite often referred to as it, isn't it? Anxiety, it just watches over me. I just feel stressed all the time. There's no way I can control it. Okay, and we have this thing, this it, and this it feels like it's bigger than us. Okay, and we've got no control over it. But like I said to you earlier, more often than not, this it is anticipatory anxiety. Okay, that's that in the mind that's creating the stress and those feelings. I'm not saying they're not real. I know they're real. I'm a what's the word? I used to suffer with stress and anxiety. I used to have panic attacks. I used to get down a lot in my 20s, my teens and my 20s. So I completely know that these feelings are real. However, the way that they are created are from the anticipatory anxiety. And there is no it. There is no it, okay? It is only you. And you, I did, you may not, your clients may not. I'm saying you, but it doesn't mean to say that you are, for sure. Obviously, you know that. It means that the person that is suffering is unwittingly creating it because they don't understand how their mind ticks. They don't understand what their triggers are. They're not aware of their belief systems. They're not aware of their thinking styles. They're not aware of their character styles. They're not aware of the mind and body connection and how these things work so closely together. They're probably maybe aware that they're suffering with social pressure, social anxiety, but think they just have to. It's just a part of them and there's nothing that they can do about it. They probably don't realise how self-critical they are because they're not tuned into their thoughts. And it's just playing like a radio in the background. It's like having the radio on in the kitchen sometimes, isn't it? That dialogue, that internal dialogue that just goes on and on. We have 30,000 thoughts every 24 hours. And if they're not helpful and supportive, if they're a nag, it's no wonder we start to feel stressed and anxious. So we have to make sure that that dialogue, those 30,000 thoughts every 24 hours that are going on in your mind, are supportive and helpful. Okay, so we're not breaking our heart and we're building up our confidence. We're breaking this cycle. And then, of course, we want that emotional resilience that we talked about earlier and those internal resources in order to know that actually if something does happen real time, we've got the skill set to deal with it, mindset and the skill set to deal with it, okay? So I'm hoping you've enjoyed this if you've watched, and I'm hoping that's helped. I'm hoping you understand what I've been bubbling on about and that you found it useful. Hopefully you've got some insight from that. And you can see how it plays out and it's made sense to you. If you've got any questions, I'm just going to refresh again before I go. If you've got any questions, please feel free to ask me. You can post them in the comments below. Let me know how you found this if you're watching on the replay. If you've got any questions that you want to ask me directly, please feel free to message me directly. And like I said, this is a shortened version of our 7 steps to self-empowerment, which is the full program that our coaches use with their clients. And it's a curation, like I said, a curation and adaptation of schools of thought, hypnotherapy, psychotherapy, CBT, and coaching. And so hopefully you found that interesting. Let me know, won't you? Just let me know that you've watched. Let me know your thoughts, ask me any questions, and I will see you all again soon. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.